I wanted to start my talk off with one simple question. How many of you guys have ever pushed to your absolute limits? Now, I was playing in the 2022 Canadian National Junior Squash Championships, and I was dying. I had played 3 one-hour matches on the previous 2 days. My legs were tired, my body was dysfunctioning, and my mind was just going everywhere. But I kept pushing. Now, I've been playing squash for 7 years now, and started when I was 9 years old. My success is not achieved through my achievements, but rather me being able to beat myself, because I always thought myself as my greatest opponent. I always got extremely nervous in tournaments, and I had to do something about that. Now, me being able to control my emotions and feelings meant I could essentially control my whole body. Now, squash has definitely changed me as a person. When I was small, I used to hate talking in front of large groups of people, such as this one, right? But ever since I started playing squash, I've become more confident in myself and in other areas of my life as well. Initially, I found the sport to be fun, but ever since I started playing competitively, things have changed a lot. My first ever tournament was the Jericho Junior Open, and because this was my first tournament, I had no idea what I was doing in it. For the first round, I was up against an 8-year-old. Now, me being 9 years old, I thought that I had to win, because imagine losing to someone who was 1 year younger than you, right? That would be super embarrassing. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, and as a result, I was super nervous. I was so nervous to the point where I hoped that my mom would have forgotten about the whole tournament so I wouldn't have to play in it. Now, this was because I had absolutely no mental training whatsoever, and it was just my first tournament. So I remember stepping into the court atmosphere and breathing it in. Instantly, my heart started pounding really fast. My brain was focused on one point, and my muscles felt heavy and slow. And I went onto the court, and I tried to hit the ball, and let me tell you, it did not feel normal. I swung at the ball, and I somehow missed it. I thought I was going to lose. But I remained calm and tried to hit the ball slowly and slowly. I got the hang of it. Now, some of you may be thinking that I lost that match because I was so nervous, right? But luckily, my opponent also didn't know how to hit the ball properly. So I beat him quite easily because I was 1 year older than him, and moved on to my next few rounds. My next few rounds were the same: nervousness, frustration, and just muscle fatigue. By the end of the tournament, I was so exhausted that I just wanted to quit playing squash. Now, I knew I had to do something about this nervousness because it was interfering with my performance, but I didn't know what. Fast forward a few years, I was playing in the 2019 US Junior Open. Now, this was a much bigger tournament because it was international. As usual, for my first 2 rounds, I was extremely nervous. As a result, I lost in the second round, meaning I was not top 16. Now I thought to myself, realistically, who cared if I got 17th in a tournament? So I relieved myself of all the pressure I had, and I just focused on playing the best I could. And the next day, I woke up, and I just felt really normal for some reason. In fact, I didn't even feel like I was in a tournament. I knew something must have clicked in my head. So I spent the next 30 minutes or so sitting on my hotel bed thinking. Eventually, I came up with this ideology: focus on the process rather than the result. By focusing on the process, you're eliminating a lot of pressure from yourself because the process is good, the result will follow through. Now imagine this. You train for 4 hours a day, 7 times a week, but you're still not achieving what you want. It has to be something to do with the mentality, because your skill level is there. You put in all the effort. This demonstrates how important a proper mentality is in a sport, as it determines whether you succeed or not. And I realized this, so I hammered that ideology into my head, never forgetting it. Now fast forward a few more years. I was playing in the 2022 Canadian Junior National Championships. This was a much different tournament because I was not expected to achieve anything because I was the underdog. I was playing in the boys under 17 age group, which meant I was up against 16-year-olds, and I was 15. So for the first round, I beat my opponent in a very close 5 games that lasted upwards of 1 hour. I thought I played pretty well because he was a really tough opponent, and to be honest, I didn't know how I beat him. I just kept going. But I knew that my second round was even more important because I was up against the 3rd seed. Now, I knew that he had double the amount of pressure on him because, firstly, he was the 3rd seed and I was unseeded. Secondly, I was 15 years old and he was 16. So I went into the court with the mentality of throwing everything I had at him. Now, I kept on retrieving, I kept on attacking until I finally broke him in the 4th game. I won in 4, and the match lasted upwards of 1 hour and 20 minutes. I was feeling really exhausted, but I knew I couldn't stop there because my next match was the semifinals. I continued on with the mentality of just throwing everything I had at my opponent and focusing on playing my best squash, not the result. And to my surprise, I actually beat the opponent in the semifinals, which I didn't expect. And just like that, I was somehow in the finals of the nationals. Now, I mentioned these tournaments not to show how awesome I am, but rather it is to demonstrate my growth in mentality and physicality. For the first tournament, as you can see, I was extremely nervous and I didn't perform at my level at all. It was an absolute disaster. Now my second tournament was much better because I remembered the ideology of focusing on the process and not the result. My third tournament was where I just let everything go and I focused on playing my best as I can. And in the end, I was able to beat myself and take control of my feelings and emotions. So, as a call to action, I want every single one of you to focus on the process and not the result. Try this for 1 week, and you'll see the change. Thank you.